No.
Woke up at 5 a.m. to a horror text. My sister wrote, "They're here, I can hear bombs." I forget how to sleep, the nightmare begins. Dictator says we were forced to intervene. No place is safe, I call everyone I love. Someone's lost a cry, people start to die. I'm far from home, no chance to help.
We're live here. We've got everyone on from the Ukraine side of the experience here who is here to discuss kind of some real life scenarios that they're going through right now, culturally speaking. And I'd like to introduce everyone. Alyssa has written a very special song for her for the Ukrainians, an empowerment song as well as the world. Alyssa, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about the song a little bit here?
Yeah, hi, thank you. My name is Alyssa Appa. I'm a starting independent artist from Ukraine, and we just heard a part of my song. So when the war started, I was in Warsaw, and in shock as everybody else. And well, except for my husband and me, my whole family is still in Ukraine. And well, right now we came to the U.S. and we're safe here. But yeah, I just wanted to say a little more about my song and what I have written it for. Dubs, do you want me to talk right now, or do you want to introduce everybody
We'll go ahead
else?
and introduce everyone else, and we'll come right back to your song here. Let me go into Dimitri. I'm sorry. We're going to call him Dima today because he's a great representative here. So Dima, tell us a little bit about yourself as well, real quick, at the beginning.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Dima. I'm also from Ukraine. I work for the last 8 years in IT sphere. So we have a company. We do software development with clients from all over the world. Our developers, some of our developers are located still in Ukraine. So like the whole situation affected like our business in a really bad way. Like families, friends, like everyone is still there, and they're trying to protect their country. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we'll come back to everyone after the introductions here. Elena, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself here.
Hi, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Elena. I'm from Ukraine. I'm a marketer working for an Israeli company. When the war has started, I was in Zaporizhia. It's a city on the southeast of Ukraine. It's a huge city actually, but it wasn't bombed on the morning of the 24th. So the whole my family was in Kiev, and I will never forget this morning, me waking up by my partner saying that, like, Elena, it has started, and that feeling, when you don't want to open your eyes because you just think that you're sleeping and it's just a bad dream. So when I called my mom, she said that they woke up, they were awakened by the sound of the explosion, and that my little sis is in tears, and that's basically it. So.
Yeah. Deanna, tell us a little bit about yourself. You have some interesting views into this as well.
Hello, my name is Diana Davidian. I'm a media and public relations specialist, and I work in Ukrainian politics for more than 5 years already, or even more. I think that there is no person in Ukraine whose life was not affected by this war in any measures. So, like, there are 10 million people who fled their homes. There are 4 million people who left the country, 6 million internally displaced people. Everyone has its story, and everyone's story is practically similar. I don't know. You can ask. I can answer further.
Yeah, we'll go into more in depth on some of where you are. I would say, in some ways, on more the front line of trying to bring peace to the scenario, right? Speaking of overall, Alyssa, your song, I think that's where we really hear a lot of words that resonate. Let's talk about what created your song, right? What created the words, and everyone can listen to this song. There are some controversial things perhaps in some of the imagery, so we can't necessarily share that on LinkedIn and other live formats here, but it's a beautiful video that we'll share. Alyssa will share for us. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, everybody is welcome to watch the video on YouTube. I think it's, even though the content is controversial and sometimes harsh, I think now it's very important to share it so that people know what actually happens, and spread awareness. So basically, I started the song back in 2014 when the conflict started in Donbass region and Crimea. But I couldn't finish the song back then. So when it all started now, I just knew that I had to, because the emotions were too much. And well, as a creator, I just use all of my emotions to create music, to create lyrics. And the main thing I wanted to say with this song is how we feel. Is that we need the world to stand up and to be by our side. Unfortunately, due to the propaganda that's been fed to Russian people for years, many people there, and by many I mean I think over 80% right now, as statistic shows, support the war in Ukraine. And I think this is an enormous number, which, well, it feels like it can be happening, but it is. And that's why we need all the support from the world. And there is, in chorus, there's those words which basically say, if we fall, who's next to die? Who's next? And unfortunately, the propaganda led to the imperialistic ambitions among Russian people, who say that, well done, and after Ukraine, we're going to go to Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, etc. So further to Europe. And I think that's the message that I wanted to people to understand, that it's not only about Ukraine right now, it's about the whole Europe. It's about preventing something as terrible as World War III.
And there is this narrative that you're referring to that I think is important as well to kind of understand during war, that there are a lot of mental warfare and other aspects of this, that we need this type of empowerment, right? And the people of Ukraine, they need support more now than, especially at the beginning. Like you say, it was just a scary scenario, but now you're displaced, right? And now you're holding things together with your families and such. And I'd like to lead into that with Dima here, who has some interesting stories about family and some of this narrative as well. I think as we listen to this conversation, understanding that this narrative of us versus we versus them, and who's next, right? If that narrative begins, we need to find some level of this allowing peace to come in, and these conversations like this need to happen in order to bring about peace and bring about support to those who need it. Dima, tell us a little bit about your story as far as like what's your job scenario right now? What's it like trying to stay connected to your family and such?
Thank you. So I guess I'll start with family and propaganda in Russia. So I grew up in Russia, as my grandparents are from Russia, and my parents had a lot of business to do when they were like younger. So I'm like in touch with my grandparents constantly. And like after the whole situation started, we discussed it a few times, and I was really shocked because like my grandfather is a former officer, army officer of Russian Federation, and he told me that that's totally fine. Like you have to just agree, and like the whole situation is not that bad. We are just like Russia is doing the right thing. We are here to protect Ukrainian people, etc. And like people who speaks Russian, like they were threatened in Ukraine, and like there were a lot of troubles with that, and like that's why like Russia was forced to protect that kind of people. But like unfortunately, I don't speak Ukrainian, even though I lived like a lot of years in Ukraine, and I built my life in Ukraine, etc. I don't speak Ukrainian great because like my parents speak Russian, and like I know I do business in Russian, etc. Because our country is what I can call like democratic. So like people speak whichever language is convenient for them, and they do use language as a way of communication, not like in some nationalistic way. So right after, like during this conversation with my grandparents, I highlighted to them that okay, like I speak Russian. You know that I traveled to Kiev, I know, for 20, 30 times in the last few months, and like I did business in there. I was on Hreshadik, which is the main street of Kiev, etc. And I did it in Russian. So like, why do you say that like people who speaks Russian are in a great danger in Ukraine and they are getting killed, etc. And they just told me that I just got lucky.
That for 1 second that you and Alyssa are married, right? And
yeah, that's correct.
And tell us a little bit about that and that how that is with your relationship and your family as well, if you will.
Like with our relationship, everything is okay because we at least like we see the whole situation from the same position. Regarding the family, like my family is outside of the country right now. Alyssa's family is still in Ukraine and also in Zaporizhia. So we hope that the whole situation will not escalate any further, and like we'll just get to wherever it was like back on February 23rd, at least.
Yeah.
And regarding business, yeah, like a lot of our colleagues, as I already mentioned, like I work in IT, and like there are a lot of great programmers, a lot of great people in Ukraine, designers, etc. Like, and most of them were forced to fled their country, and like a lot of them lost their jobs. They're trying to stabilize their life as it gets possible with the whole situation. So also from the society of the whole world, it would be a great support for Ukrainian people just to, I know, not only help with donations, etc., but also it would be extremely helpful to help people find their jobs. I know, assign Ukrainian people to some projects, because in that case they would be able to cover like their bills and just get their lives back on track.
Yeah, that's very important. Getting back on track, and not knowing where that track is right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think anything that we can do to help kind of stabilize your day to day would be great support. So, and we are in a network of community here on, let's say, for instance, LinkedIn and some other social networks that we're providing live feed here to. I hope that some relation to what we're doing here will result in these folks having some support in their day to day, as well as they have deep ties into to what's going on directly in the Ukraine as well, and trying to keep up with where family members are and all of this displacement and such. Elena, speaking of displacement, I think you had a really a unique story about what occurred at the beginning and led into where you are now. Would you mind sharing some level of what you were discussing earlier?
Sure. As Diana said, all of the stories are actually similar because, it just happened. You feel fear and you think what to do next. Uh, so we just decided that we will leave for a while. And that is why in a week, I think, we just packed our stuff. It's an unforgettable experience to pack your life in a backpack. I recommend everyone to try to do that just to feel like the way we felt. And there were like four of us, four women, and a kid, and the cat, and two little like rats, moving across the country for 3 days. It was one of the most challenging journeys in my life, I would say, because you always like looking in the window and you're checking whether the sky is clear and whether there are no like APC or like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we slept at a church. Like people like are beautiful. They're just like there are lots of chats and messenger like everywhere in WhatsApp, in Telegram, and you're just like texting like, "Hi, I'm heading to the city. That anybody can help," and people are helping. They're just like it's a power of people, of love, of unity. So yeah, we slept in church. We slept in my friends house. We slept also in in another house. So everyone was so welcoming, and there are no awkward pauses when you like talk to those people because you have a similar problem right now and similar like, challenge. So yeah, and then like we fled to the west of the country first, but then we realized that people are keep coming and that like, just a lot of people. So we decided to cross the border, and my sister and I like were crossing the border in Romania. We were like scared and we knew nothing about like what are we like heading to and what is going to happen to us. We knew that there are volunteers and that they're helping, but when we crossed the border, we were so shocked because like right away a person approached and asked us like, where are you heading, what help do you need? They took us to like a tent, and there was like hot tea and sandwiches and like literally everything. So we met a lot of great people like from Romania, from Ukraine, from the United States, and they're there and they're helping. So we missed our flight because we were heading to Turkey. Like we hoped that we will cross the border, get to the airport, and then just fly away. But we missed it because it's not the usual border crossing that happens. And we were hosted by a beautiful Romanian family and in a beautiful house, and they were like feeding us, and we were playing the board games. They tried to do everything to create that warm atmosphere for us to forget what we went through. And what I realized that it's all about people, not only in Ukraine. Like right now, Ukraine is united as never before. All of the people like have, as I said before, like the same challenge to to fight with. And when I saw the same atmosphere abroad, like when all of those Romanian people like trying to help, trying to find transport, food, like everything. When we like entered to a coffee place and we've seen that there is a huge like box and like it's written like help for the Ukrainians and people are just bringing stuff over there. It's like you cannot not to cry because you just see how people who you've never met before, like never talked to before, they share so much love and so much compassion, and they ask you questions about you, about your family. So yeah, I was impressed, and I really appreciate. I want to thank every person out there who are helping Ukrainians right now. We know it's challenging for you as it is challenging for us, but like every word of support, every donation, every room you shared, it means so much. And
Yeah, and we will share these support links as well, so that we can get the network of real on the ground kind of experience here, right? And open hands from members of society in general, people with open hands trying to just help out any way they can. To me, that's heartwarming when you're under something so devastating, right? And I think when we were talking earlier, tell me a little bit about, as a collaborative group here, how do you feel when, for instance, Dima, you all are in the U.S. right now. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. And do you know members of Ukrainian people here? Are you kind of solo right now? Are you trying to find your way around? Is there anything that you can use as far as a place to be, et cetera? Or how do you feel with that right now in your situation?
Yeah, we like I have some friends here in the US, but they moved here like more than 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's a little bit challenging because in here we don't have any like a lot of friends, a lot of people to talk to, and definitely have to like rebuild like the whole approach regarding business side. As we were like we had some clients from Ukraine, we also had some clients from Russia before the whole like situation started, and we were actually like it was our decision to stop cooperating and collaborating with them, even though it wasn't like governmental or semi-governmental companies. So
narrative, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the tech industry there in the Ukraine, I've heard some stories of folks who are actually still working and using Starlink to stay connected, and some unique technologies and support from from the tech community as well. I noticed that, for instance, I think it was Skype I was using. They were offering some free capabilities to keep people online and connected. And the Starlink, that's a fascinating thing to think about, right? Where this is giving people access into something they would ordinarily be stuck with no way of communicating per se. Technology seems to be something that we all rely on, especially being here today. This was not an easy feat for anyone, really, right? And I would say, Alyssa, when it comes to the words in your song, right, and resonating back to your country and what's going on there right now, tell me what resonates in that song in the now for you.
Well, I would say everything because it's still the same. And one of the main as well messages was stand by us, world, stand by us, and please help us cover our sky, which was the narrative that we all have been talking about, that we need help. We need special jets, military jets to cover our sky, because that way we could shield like our people. And it's still it's still an open question because it still hasn't been done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is the most important because it's about people's lives, and people's lives are at stake every day, every hour,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah. And
Um,
getting those words back to Ukrainians also, I think that's important. If anyone, as you share this song, you listen to this song, and feel free to, share it with others if you can as well. It's a very important song of the day. I would say personally, it's a beautiful song, beautiful vocals and words that express real deep emotion. Personally speaking, I can understand why there's a lot of emotion with some of the words that are spoken in Ukraine about the Russian ships. Right? It might be a little too much of a topic for certain platforms, but yeah, there's a lot of that there as well. Deanna, you are, when it comes to these connections and such, can you tell us a little bit about what you're experiencing in your area of expertise and staying in touch with what's going on for peace, etc.?
Sure. I will only agree with Olena about the first 2 weeks, because I'm sure that everyone in Ukraine had the same story of firstly not accepting the fact that there are bombs near your home. There are bombs that are destroying your neighbor houses and killing people. Then you're like in this stage of acceptance, and you decide to go somewhere safe. And then there are those scenes from the movies you've seen about the World War II, when there are like train stations and there are millions, thousands actually, of people, and they're all trying to get to the train. And like I will probably never forget the scene when I've got to the train, and the woman who works there, she just closed the door, and a man with a child were left behind the door, but there was no place for them, like for other thousands of people who were left there. So I think that all the atrocities that Russia commits right now must be held accountable in all the international courts and organizations in future. And this is actually a part of my work and what I'm doing. I will tell more in details. Firstly, I work with a Ukrainian member of parliament, and he's actually a human rights defender. So right now we're working on this line, as well as he's trying to set up these humanitarian corridors to free people from the cities that are under the occupation and that are seized by Russia. And the second part of my work is trying to help international journalists to see the truth. I'm trying to get in contact all the international journalists with Ukrainian authorities, as well as with common Ukrainians who fled their cities. And due to that, I'm in constant communication with a lot of people who were in Mariupol and who were in Bucha. My colleague, she was living in Bucha, and for the first 2 weeks she was staying there with her 2 little kids in a shelter, and they didn't have food, they didn't have water, they didn't have any connection. We had no idea whether they are alive or they're dead, or they managed to leave. And then they were living with 2 kids under the shelling, and she was telling that she and her husband decided they will go on 2 cars because they divided their children. One was going with mother, and another child was going with her father, with his father, and they did it just in case one car gets under the shelling, another child will survive. So people in Ukraine right now, who are leaving their homes, they expect that they will die. So they're trying to minimize at least those deaths. There was a photo of a woman, of a child, recently posted in Instagram, a Ukrainian mother, and she was writing down by a pen on her 2 years daughter the contact information of her and her husband, because she wrote that, I thought that if someone kills me or if we got lost, she was expected that someone will get her child to a safer place. So now every Ukrainian is desperate, and no one knows can they meet another day, and can they meet their relatives and friends. I won't even have enough time to speak about Mariupol and everything that is happening there. It's like for more than a month the city is totally closed, and Russians are not letting anyone in and out the city. The people don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have internet connection because all the stations were bombed like the first day, and they don't have heat, and it is cold right now in Ukraine. The 90% of all Mariupol buildings are bombed, so people are living in those shelters, but those shelters are in danger too, because when there is a huge bomb and it is bombed on the building, the shelter is not protective. So it was the case with this drama theater. There was a drama theater in Mariupol, and there were 1,000 people hiding there, and Russians just bombed the drama theater, and 300 people died there. 300 people. They were like women, children, elderly people, wounded people. They were hiding to protect their lives. So there is no comfort zone anymore in Ukraine. There is no safe place in Ukraine. Every town there is bombed. There are air alerts every hour, and it is impossible to stand both mentally and physically safe right now, just because one person, Putin, hates your country, and other 140 million people let him do this. And I want to remind you that 80% of people in Russia tolerate and approve Putin's doing in Ukraine. So when people in Europe and people in USA and other Western free world with democracy countries say that there are a lot of good people in Russia and that they are not guilty of their leader, I want to remind you that USA is changing its presidents for every 5 years, and you have a choice to choose the authorities you like, and the authorities that will represent you. I am convinced that Russia and Russian people has the same choice, but they don't want to do it. They're like, okay, we will leave with this Putin. We can't do anything, and so on. But in Ukraine, people suffer because Russians don't do anything. So.
I think this is a good opportunity to also say that there are certainly, I would assume, people who are in Russia that don't like what they see, right? As there is with any probably any society in general, that war is not an option for us as people. When we get into governmental factors, we can't necessarily be in control of that in the same way, right? And certainly propaganda directs some narrative in countries. And what I would hope is that through these kinds of conversations where we can really hear what is going on, what is causing this despair, right, with your neighbors, but not just your neighbors. Your neighbor is defined by a line. right? Let's take the line away and understand how can we come back to a norm and support people who've been war torn. And it is very difficult to look at any other angle when you're in the middle of trying to figure out how to leave, how to get to another place that's safe, how to split your families up, how to be in another country like some are, and still wondering what's going on there. I haven't heard from this person. Do you all have people like that you have in contact with where you don't really know where they are right now, for instance?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had such an experience as Diana described. Like,
Mhm.
I haven't been able to talk to my auntie and my sister and my niece for 10 days because they were in Hostomel. And that is the exact reason why Ukrainians will not erase any lines with any
Mhm.
neighboring countries,
Mhm.
because we're sorry, an
Yeah.
independent country, and
Mhm.
we have a right for being free, for having our
Mhm.
territories with Crimeas, with Donbass, and that is why we're going to fight. We're going to fight for our family, for our dogs, for our cats, for our friends, and that is why we'll be united. Yeah, so
Mhm. That's
that's
beautiful. Yes. And see, when I was referring to the line, it's an interesting line, right? There's a line where we want to have peace with each other as our community, and we're certainly cross pollinating, like Dima was saying earlier. Working within different countries, and we're seeing a lot of divide worldwide with that right now, right? With and how people are disconnecting from more on the Russian side of their companies and other aspects of things. That certainly probably a lot to that I don't know enough about, but I think you all are more in tune. Do you want to talk about that topic for a second there, Dima, on what that disconnect means with the world from the Russian side?
Mm,
Like
could you just
your day to day with working with Russian companies, what is that like now, not being able to connect and take on those projects, and the different aspects of like what that means now to you from where you were as reliant
like
upon
for our company, it wasn't the main market, but definitely as soon as we are trying right now to save those jobs for our developers, which were able to, like, who are still a part of our company, and we would like it to remain the same. So basically, currently we are looking for new clients, like we are open-minded for new customers, but we cannot like cooperate and work with Russia as of the whole the situation. As it's like it would be not correct from our perspective.
Yeah.
So like our developers are just trying to actually all people in Ukraine who can do their work remotely, they do work, and they actually provide their services. They most of businesses in Ukraine still running. Um, Regarding the development part, and people who are working for an offshore companies, they work they're also in safe places. Some of them were not able to leave their cities because they have parents, families, etc., and it's getting difficult for them. Moreover, the amount of spaces available in different parts of Ukraine is limited, for
Mhm.
sure. But still, people doing their best. They're trying just to live their normal in new reality life. They're trying to deliver their work. Some of them were able to cross the border and working from some safe spots from Poland or other European countries,
Yeah.
and people are just trying to do their best.
I'm sorry. Can I just one more remark? I just saw that your podcast name is Ukraine Crisis. And it is actually correctly to say Ukraine war, because we don't have a crisis, we have a war. We could have a crisis if there was some economic issues inside of our country. But when your neighbor attacks you at 4 a.m., this is not a crisis. So
yeah, I mean, I
and
think
this wording really matters, because Russia tries to say that this is a special operation, that nothing is going on, this is not a war. They're even closing their media if some of the journalists use the war word. So
yeah.
I have stories from my tops you mentioned, like those Russian people who are still people. So the stories from those like two people left, like their police approaching there on the streets, taking their phones and checking what do they write in their like social medias, and it's a real story from a real person. And
Yeah.
if they use a word war, they're taken to the police stations. So just
Mhm.
for you to understand the extent, at which extent the problem is, like
Mm.
people are not allowed to think and to use the words. That is why it's super important for the whole world to name the thing, like the things the way they are. You know, it's
Mhm.
and it's really important for Ukrainians as well, because CNN and a lot of news, like they use the, they tolerate the problem, and it's not a problem, it's a war, and it cannot be tolerated. It should be seen, uh, accepted, and helped. Like,
Mhm. So we, in terms of, and I'm so glad you mentioned this, Deanna, because this is something that we're all new to, right? And being in the U.S. and disconnected, we are here. Well, personally, I don't watch mainstream news, so I'm a little more out of that loop, but for intentional reasons. I would say that, but we are out of the loop as to like what's really happening, because there is so much withheld, right? And this word war, right? I see in terms of like the crisis that's related, that is the byproduct of the war itself, but the war itself being the severity of what it is, we can't even really show the real life imagery that people are having to see within their own eyes, and that's something that is very traumatizing to anyone and everyone who sees that, right? Why don't you tell me a little more, Deanna, if you will, about what that word war means to you? If we were able to open that up as a topic of like why it's important to say that we're not in a crisis, why it's important to say that we are in a war, and that you have very strong feelings about that for the world, so we can understand and be more sensitive to that as well, right?
okay, sure. I can explain it very easily. There is an international law, and there are war crimes. And Russia actually is committing thousands of war crimes each day. They all have to be documented. And everyone in Russia, both those people who gave the orders, or the people who executed those orders, have to be one day brought to justice. If we do not say the things, name the things as they are, we will tolerate those narratives that are Russian propaganda spreading. They're like saying that there is nothing on happening in Ukraine. Actually, no, they're saying that there are Nazis in Ukraine, and they started a special war operation to save Ukrainian people.
Mm-hmm.
This is not true, because Ukraine is an independent country with its worldwide recognized borders. And what did Russia on February 24? They started air strikes to major Ukrainian cities, to dozens of major Ukrainian cities. So they violated international law. They violated internationally recognized borders of Ukraine. They bombed our cities. Second thing, their soldiers came into the territory of Ukraine through the Belarus territory. So Russian soldiers violated the Ukrainian borders through the territory of the third country. So there's no special operation. What the hell is special operation? The territory of other sovereign country. It's like if Canada tomorrow will go to some American city with tanks, with soldiers, will start to kill people, innocent people, women, children, elderly people, men, anyone, will bomb your cities from air, will bomb your city from water, and they will call it a special military operation. Will you agree to that? No, you will say that this is a war. Everyone in the world know what does war mean, especially people in America, because you were like one of the main countries during the World War II who were helping Europeans to fight against Nazis. So it's like you say that Hitler at that time started a special military operation against Poland. No, that was a war, and Putin just didn't declare it because he is a criminal. He is a liar. He is like killing our people and then telling that Ukrainians killed themselves. Why do we need to do that? We were like building our cities. We were building our roads. Why do we need to destroy our cities? So if we do not use this world war, then we will just tolerate everything that Putin does right now, and he's a war criminal. He should go to a tribunal and be held accountable for all the things that he and his team and his people are doing right now. So
do you feel like other countries are joining in and assisting the way they should? Do you feel let down in any way? Do you feel like proud in any way? I mean, give me a little idea of like also the front line of your own country and how people are supporting your own troops and such to battle this war.
How are people supporting our army, or what do you mean?
You start out with that for sure, because I have heard a little bit about how some folks here in the U.S. and abroad are having to work, but still working, but they are also sending money.
Okay, there's just one number from the start of this war. 300,000 Ukrainians came back from abroad to Ukraine to defend this country. 300,000 people. They just left their comfort life in Europe, in America, or in any other country, and they returned home to protect their lands, to protect their countries. And also I don't know any person, anyone from my friends, my family or relatives who are not volunteering right now. It can be providing humanitarian aid. It can be working on the international front, like telling the world the truth. It can be my former boss. He is actually a prime minister, and he was a prime minister. He is now in the territorial defense units of Kiev. So he just took an arm and went to protect his city. And a lot of people, almost 500,000 people joined territorial defense units, and this is like also an army. So people in Ukraine are motivated to protect their lands because the truth is on our side, and we're ready to fight for these lands. What about people in Europe? It all depends actually on countries. If we speak about people are of course supporting, especially Poland, especially Romania. They are very protective. They create a lot of opportunities for Ukrainians in their country so that they can feel more comfortable in this situation. But there are still some governments of countries like Hungary or Germany that are trying to protect their money they are owning with Russia, and they're not imposing sanctions and so on, as well as USA that are taking the neutral side and not helping as much as they can Ukraine with the weapons and with aircraft vessels.
Yeah. How about Alyssa? Feel free to kind of chime in there. I can tell you've got something.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that, and this word just, I just heard this word neutrality, and that's not the time for neutrality, and that's. I want to also refer to your question that Dima answered regarding why we are not working with, why they are not working, yes, with Russian companies, as this is war, as we told, and there is no place for any neutrality. And if Ukrainian companies are still to work with Russian companies that pay their taxes in Russia, so they are funding the war, yes. So there's no like neutral side to this. It's a no to cooperation with any Russian companies right now, well, from our perspective. Yeah. And
do you foresee a peaceful approach at all to this while there is a battle on the front like this? Do you foresee any approach to peace, finding peace in a way? What would your approach be to that? It's tough, right?
It's a hard question because from what I see, it's either Ukraine gives their land to Russia in order to say, okay, we want peace, but that's not going to happen because, as we said, people are fighting for their homes as they should, and they're not going to give in so easily. So the only way I'm seeing is that Ukraine just defeats Russia at some point with the help of everybody else, and that's, I feel this is my mission to tell people as much as I can that we still need your help. We still need you to talk in your countries and to spread awareness and to call to your governments and ask them to provide us with more weapons, with more jets, because people are dying. That's simple as that.
Yeah. Alyssa, I'm sorry. Lena, did you have something you wanted to say about that? As far as peace, finding a peaceful outcome to this before. I mean, it's obviously the prevention of Russia giving back what they've come in and dominated and taken from you all, right? I can only express how I feel sympathy for this, right? But as far as like people in the real world scenario right now, trying to work, right, and trying to sustain, what would you say is your vibe on people that are like who are split up, et cetera? How are they providing for their families?
I think the vibe is no one is gonna to surrender, and we do not see a peaceful solution right now because you can talk about a peace with a person, with a country which has some values, like someone who stands at least like for some humanity. And the situation we are in right now, it's like I think every Ukrainian has this feeling right now. Every day we think that we saw like the worst, and when the next day comes, we see even worse. And that is why we do not see any peaceful solution, like escalation in this direction. But the thing is, if the world will not help us, like not only in words, but only, as a girl said, with weapon and with some aircrafts, vessels, and all of the not a pleasant but very important things that we need right now, we might not like do it on our own because we have the bravest people on the planet right now, but it's still about money, about power, and about being involved. That is why we need this help so much. And as I said, like I saw so much support from the people. That's why I believe that people help us. Like if citizens of their countries go to the streets, show their governments that this is their decision, this is their wish, their countries to help us, we truly believe that it will help. And it's not only Ukraine and Russia right now, it's the whole world. Like maybe you haven't seen that like news, but ex president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, today like posted a statement when he said that their goal is to come back to true European values. So all the cities from Lisbon to Vladivostok will live, the right way. That is why it's not only about Ukraine, and it's about each and every person in the Europe. And yeah, that is why we appreciate support from Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia so much, because they've been in these shoes and they know how scary and how awful it is to be a part of this country, let's call it. So yeah, I do not see any peaceful like escalation here. I just want my country back. I want my apartment back, my friends, my family, my animals.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
disheartening there in and of itself, being displaced from your animals.
I also have a story. Like we talked about Starlinks, but I didn't mention it. Like
Yeah.
I'm looking for Starlinks badly right now because it helps a lot. Like we are so grateful to the US, to Elon Musk that they're helping us right now. And I believe in the power of Twitter. So I started to post every day and tagging Elon Musk, just please help, please help. Okay, he still haven't replied me, but like I believe he will one day. But there is a guy from Netherlands who texted like, I can donate mine. I was like, really? Like a totally unknown person from Ukraine, like tweeting. And that person said, yes, I will, just send me the address. And he donated his Starlink box and it's already went where it's supposed to go. And this is so powerful. Again, I'm every day I'm amazed by kindness, by humanity, by the support. And if the countries were as people are, so acting as humans, not as politics, as economics, as businesses, it would be so great. Like we would definitely win already. And just seeing our families and our friends and being together. Yeah.
Like you said, never surrender, right? You're not going to surrender, so it doesn't resonate.
Let me just say one more thing. Since many people from the States are watching us, I just want to say that people here has been so amazing to us, and we also have seen so much support from American people that I think it's a really important point that Elena made, that people are kind, and that's why it's important to talk. It's important to spread awareness and tell the truth, because people hear, people listen, and they understand. And if more people know about this, if more people understand what this is about and what we need, they will help and they will influence eventually their governments. And I think this is powerful.
Thank you for ending on that as well, because I think Deanna was mentioning that earlier in terms of the words we use and how severe those words are to our reality versus trying to soften it a little bit. I certainly don't want to soften anything. Our modern day platforms, they want to be as in control of the message as the narrative as anyone else, and so we do have to abide by a certain aspect of that. But I think it's very important to not surrender, right? And then also to know that everyone is supporting you, and the world loves you. I know that from within. And I know that we all are affected by this. And thank you for being here today. And you know, I know this isn't easy to be here for an hour, even when you've got you know, things going on in your world that's like everywhere right now. So thank you all for being here today. And one love from Dynamic Studios for sure. We're always here to support culture and society. So thank you. Is there a last word anyone would like to have before we go today?
I just want to thank you for having us, for doing that. I think this is really important, and I'm so grateful, I think, as we all are.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
that you reached out to me as well. I am here. Number one, if anyone wants to reach out to me online, I'll happily get you any information you need to reach out to these beautiful people here on the panel, and any of the support networks. I think we're going to be putting some links out there as well. I think even some of the cities in Ukraine are involved in some of that funding and things to get people stabilized. So so look out for that also. Thank you all for being here today. And again, one love to everyone. And we're praying. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.